So Moira, what is meant by the term cooperation in a moral evil?
That term is used to mean that we've already decided in our own minds that something that has come up in our own lives that we're maybe being asked to take part in, we think that action is wrong. And we're wondering if there is any way in which we can take part in that action at any level. And it is interesting in Catholic teaching that we say that there are situations, and it very much then depends on the individual situation, where under no circumstances should we be involved. And on the other hand, there are some circumstances where it's decided that our participation isn't, in a sense, vital to the act happening or reaching completion, and our participation in it may not be culpable. So it's a very difficult area, because it means that we have to be able to be sure that at some level the seriousness of the action is so grave and becomes obvious to us that our cooperation in it just would be out of the question. But then there's the further refinements of deciding whether or not we can cooperate.
Okay, so you're suggesting then that there are degrees of involvement, it sounds as if, and possibly degrees of culpability or moral responsibility. And I think you're also suggesting that the Catholic Church has certainly spent some time thinking about this, because it seems to me as well you're saying that we do participate in life. We do participate in many different things. We're not ghettoized, and somehow it's important to discern. Is that true?
That's a very good summary of it, because yes, it is about real life. It's not abstract, it's not academic in that sense, but a certain amount of serious thinking has to go into analysing what is actually going on. What is the reality, again, of this situation? What is the intention of the person doing the act? What will the outcome be? What will the consequences be? And we're always all doing that in analysing any moral act. We're maybe not thinking of those terms in our heads, but we are working it out. And when we say working it out, we mean we're looking at all these different parts of the act, and then they all kind of have to come together for us to ascertain that this is a moral act or in fact is an evil act. But in this particular case, cooperation in the evil act of the other, we've already worked out, and that's why we can give it this title, that there is something wrong, even if we can't pinpoint it, but there is something wrong about this act that's being proposed to us. So we're already on that side. We're already on the side of working out, may I or may I not be involved here? Should I or should I not be participating? So there's very definitely this question, is this an evil act? And then we have to be able to say, the Catholic teaching helps us, I think, very much here, to decide which acts are evil. And then from then, the level of involvement, may I cooperate or not? And then even in some situations, maybe because of lack of knowledge or lack of a certain amount of freedom, then the level of culpability, so the level of personal blame for being involved in an evil act, will also be in question and has to be worked out.
So you're talking then about a process of discernment. We're talking about degrees of involvement, and it seems to me as well then there are different categories of cooperation. And one that comes to mind is something called formal cooperation.
Right.
So what exactly is formal cooperation?
I think the name again helps us to see. I think as soon as we say something's formal, we realise there's a seriousness, a weight to it. This is a sort of situation where the seriousness, the serious wrongness of the act is so clear to us that the act should not be done at all. If we actually agreed with the intention of the person doing the act, and at the same time we're recognising the act as evil, then in fact we are as guilty, for want of a better word, as the person doing the act, because we would be cooperating with that person's will in the performance of the act, and as well as being part of the act itself. The level of culpability is actually the same as the person doing the action. So formal cooperation is clearly a very serious and heavy level of involvement, And to cooperate with the evil intention of another person is something that a moral person normally would not be doing. If you're making distinctions and saying this is good, this is wrong, why would I be suddenly aligning myself with someone who's doing something wrong?
So that there's a very deep level of cooperation in formal cooperation. It is actually agreeing
Yes.
with the evil that is being done. So formal cooperation, you're saying, is the person carries the same culpability as the person who is
Right.
performing the act.
Right.
So this is formal cooperation. At the
Mhm.
same time, there is also something called immediate material cooperation.
Mhm.
So what is immediate material cooperation?
Well, in immediate material cooperation, the person is thinking that there is something wrong about this, and I don't really agree with the intention of the person performing the act. But at the same time, then, I either agree to participate, agree to cooperate, agree to do a part of the act. And the important thing in this category is that the act couldn't be performed without my cooperation. So there's a real tension in this particular category. At least what I'm thinking of is really that there must be a tension in a person's mind. If I can say, I don't really think what you're doing is right, but I will help you to do it. But just at that level, we would be saying, then this is clearly wrong as well, and it's the wrong decision, it's the wrong moral decision to make. If I'm seriously thinking that what the person who's asking me to work with him or her is doing, if I really think that's wrong, why would I be taking part?
Well, it certainly sounds as if there's a disconnect because the person apparently disagrees,
Mhm.
apparently recognizes
Mhm.
that there is evil being done,
Mhm.
apparently disagrees with the
Mhm.
evil being done, but nevertheless not simply cooperates but provides an essential
Yes, right.
essential
Yeah.
participation.
Right.
Culpability, then, we know with formal cooperation, then
Right.
a person is
You're
as culpable
fully
as the
culpable.
agent. And what about immediate material cooperation?
Well, I think it's the same thing, but speaking not so much in the abstract, but just in the recognition of you're trying to establish whether a person may cooperate or not, whether it's moral or not to do so. And in a situation where it's very clear that the person is saying, I don't really agree with that, but I'm doing it, we still have to be able to say at that level, well, come on, I mean, you can't have it both ways. I mean, as usual, you take your stance, and if you actually provide something that's essential to something being done that is wrong, then I am morally responsible for it. But if somebody's sort of forcing me to do it or making me do it, that takes away that essential element of freedom. So the act being done is still wrong. This is classic Catholic moral teaching. It doesn't take away from the wrongness of the act, but it does take away a bit of the responsibility, or perhaps a lot of responsibility, of the person actually performing the act. And that it also makes it different from formal cooperation too. Yeah.
When it comes to Catholic Church teaching, where are we with formal cooperation and immediate material cooperation in an evil act?
Well, both are forbidden, if you like. Both are considered to be wrong. I think pretty clearly from what we've been saying, this is why it's wrong. If we already have decided this is an evil act, then I cannot participate in it directly, willingly, freely, from that perspective. So in those sorts of situations, immediate material cooperation, where my part is absolutely essential to the act, is just as wrong at that level as formal cooperation.
Thank you so much.